Welcome to How Preschool Teachers Do It.
This is Alison Kentos. I am an early childhood educator.
And this is Cindy Tarabush. I am an early childhood consultant.
This podcast is for parents and early childhood professionals.
Let our experience and research-based knowledge become your guide.
Hey, preschool peeps.
Hi, peeps.
We're back. And we're going to start like we have been for the past at least several weeks, I think, shouting out those where you are, those of you who are listening to us. So go ahead, Alison.
Yeah. Hello, everyone in Guatemala, specifically Guatemala City. Hello. And Chicago, Illinois.
Love Chicago.
Never been.
Oh, you should go. Love
go.
Chicago.
I do want to go.
It's a great city.
Yeah.
And it's so nice on Lakeshore Drive, and love your Chicago pizza. I'm into the whole thing.
I do want to try the Chicago
Oh,
pizza.
it's so good, but you have to go to the right place.
Okay, yeah.
All right, enough of that.
Yeah.
It's not what everybody's here to hear. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to pivot to the topic for this session. And I'm going to invite you to do something that would have been a novel idea when many of us were young, but can be, and can be so beneficial, I think, for young children in a variety of ways. And so what we're going to invite you to do is to think about this and make it a part of your practices. And that is when you're working with children or you're raising children and something happens, let's say they are upset or they seem off, or, you understand just because you know this child, you understand something's going on. Instead of just offering them things or making some kind of assumption, from the time children are very young, get them used to hearing the question, what do you need? Because I think not only will that give them an opening to let us know what they actually need other than our assumptions, but also it's going to teach them to fundamentally think about that question as they get older. The what do I need?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I think it's like not every technique works for every child, just like not every technique works for every adult, right? When you grow up as an adult, you figure out what calms me down or what do I need to do to get out of this, which is amazing that we figured out because nobody taught us. So, because I found last year in my classroom that there was a student where they gave us techniques, the guidance counselor gave us techniques, things like that. And I would try it with him and it just did not work. And so one day I just asked him, like, what do you think's going to work? And he knew, like, we talked it out. Like, he figured things out. He's like, I'd like to try this. He didn't necessarily know, but he would say, I'd like to try to do this first. Or he would tell me, like, I need to be here alone for a minute. Like, he knew. He would like sit in his cubby alone. I felt so bad that he was alone. And he told me, he's like, I need to be alone. So like he knew, but I don't think anybody ever asked him. And so then I think he just got more frustrated because nobody was doing what he needed or allowing him to do what he needed.
I'm thinking of a child that I was once interacting with. I don't know why this child came to mind, but he did. There was a child I was one time interacting with. I was the program director and he was brought to my office, which isn't ideal, but there we are. And he came in and he was crying. And I remember saying to him, what do you need? And he was crying and he just kind of went, so I said, you need a tissue? I'll give you a tissue. And I handed him the tissue. And I don't know in the moment if I thought about it, but it teaches children such an important lesson. It creates connection. When I said to him, what do you need? And he said a tissue and I handed him a tissue. What I demonstrated was, I'm here to help you. Right? I'm here for you. The world can help you. One of the first stages of Erik Erikson's theory of psychosocial development is for children ages birth to 1. And the stage is trust versus mistrust. That children at that age are basically testing through their actions. Like when I'm upset or I'm hungry or I need something, is someone going to help me? That's what, it's not a testing really. It's more like a demonstration. Like I'm upset, I need something. If we go and help the child, they learn trust. If we don't go and help the child, they learn mistrust. Right. And both happens in a lifetime, but you want to teach them more trust than mistrust. So, and I think just because Eric Erickson's theory says birth to one, here's what they're doing. I don't think that trust versus mistrust ever ends. Excuse me. I think it stays with us. I think we're always testing trust versus mistrust in our relationships, in our workplaces, perhaps at home. And so when you take a young child and say, what do you need?
Yeah.
And they tell you, and you're able to do it for them,
Yeah.
that's yet another example of I can trust the world.
Right.
I will be okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I also think like when you do this with children and they start to figure out like, oh, this is what calms me down. This is what will help me. It gives them like power and like ownership over their own feelings and their own well-being. And they start to just do it on their own, which is amazing. That's what I saw with the student I had last year. Like once I said, hey, you know what you need to do, he started just doing it. And he could take himself out of situations, sometimes even before he got to that point. But I think it was because I had given him this like empowerment of like, oh, I can just do it. I don't need her. I don't need anybody. I just know I'm starting to feel frustrated and I'm going to get angry. So let me just separate myself. Let me go over here. Let me color. Let me do whatever I need to do. And it allowed him to like problem solve his own problems, which is what we want them to do.
Right. We want them to go from another person always saying, what do you need?
Yeah.
For them to assert what they need.
Yeah.
For them to be able to come and say, I need XYZ, right? I need this. So that when it goes from things like, I need a train I can play with.
Right.
I need my chair. I need a space at large group time. It eventually becomes, I need some quiet.
Yes.
I need a hug.
Yeah.
I need time to do things. And as they get older, you know, that can become, when you're an adult, things like, I need a day off from work.
Right.
I need a mental health day.
Yeah.
I need to go get myself some help with this.
Right.
I need to make sure things are okay. I need a day where I'm just going to be in nature. It can become all that.
Yes.
But what if we, when children are very young, never say, what do you need, and try to fulfill that to help them calm themselves or to feel better? How do they ever learn that their needs matter?
That's true. And I also think they might not be learning that their feelings could ever be turned around.
Right.
Right. Because you're like, oh, this is just how I feel. I guess I'm stuck in this for now, because there is no solution, right? Nobody ever taught me a solution. So I guess we just feel like this once in a while, and that stinks. But if you start being like, no, not only can you feel this way, there are ways for you to start feeling better, and you could do those things right now, and it might not fix it quickly, but it'll over time add up even sometimes. And so maybe the solution is sometimes quick, but maybe it's not. But if you start teaching that, you could be like, oh, I almost like I'm in control of my own destiny here, kind of thing. I'm in control of how I can feel. And if I'm feeling in a spot that's like not good, I can do things in my own power to get back to the positive side of things. But I think when we were kids, it was like, no, whatever, just like, there is no fixing that. That's just how you feel once in a while. And like, it kind of like threw our feelings away, or that we weren't capable of turning things around.
Perhaps. Do you think though, so we say to young children, what do you need? And there's a difference between a need and a want.
Yes.
Right. So perhaps part of the lesson is explaining to children, what do you need? Okay, that's a want.
Yes.
Right. When it's a want, like, I can picture a child say when a child is upset or something is going on, or they're frustrated. It doesn't always have to be sad.
Yeah, no.
When they're frustrated and a parent or whoever's raising the child says to the child, what do you need? And the child's like, I needed the newest Barbie dream house.
Right.
Right.
I think some of the parents, he did not like change. So the beginning of the school year was a little rough for him. And every day his mom would be like, okay, at the end of the day, if you do a good job, I will take you to Target after work. So I think it was teaching him like the way to solve my problems is to eventually become like a shopaholic kind of thing. like what do they call that? Retail therapy. Okay.
I love me some retail therapy. All right.
Be the best way to solve. And I also don't think that's actually solving the problem, even though it makes us feel better. I mean, but just putting a Band-Aid on it. So I think like when you and as an adult start giving the wants instead of the actual needs, that's kind of stuff happens. And then if that student just wanted to go to Target one day, he would just have a day and be like, oh, my mom will take me to Target. I do. She'll laugh because we've laughed about it before, but it was like, that's what maybe you got to watch the want versus the need part comes in. Yeah.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Or you can say to a child, if they say something like, I need the newest Barbie dream house, you can say something like, there's a difference between what we need and what we want. I know that you want the Barbie dream house.
Yes.
We can't go get that right now.
Right.
What do we have here?
Right.
Right. What do we have in this space?
Or within us. Yeah.
No, they're not going to know
Maybe
that.
not, but maybe.
What do we have in this space that I can give you
right
to help you feel better?
Yeah.
I think they need to understand the difference between creating a
I think
shopping
so.
list
Yes.
and, here, what do we have in this space right now? There, I was observing in a class not too long ago, and the children were struggling over using the blocks at the same time. They were very young. We can't expect them to share.
Right.
They don't effectively take turns at that age. And one of the children got very frustrated because another child kept grabbing up all the blocks.
Right.
So the teacher went over, and instead of saying to the child, what do you need? Or even what do you want?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
How can I help you?
Yeah.
Maybe even a better way.
Right.
How can I help you?
Yeah.
Instead of asking that, the teacher went over, and so this other child was grabbing up all the blocks. The teacher went over and grabbed some blocks from that child and gave it to the other one.
Yeah.
So what we've done is just modeling that this grabbing is okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
If we're going to do this, if we're going to say, what do you need? It teaches children important lessons about tuning into their feelings, about figuring out what will make them feel better, about the fact that their needs matter.
Yep.
And then we have to, I think, kind of facilitate that in a way that also teaches important lessons.
Yes.
Like the other child has all the blocks because they grabbed them up. You're saying you need or want one of those blocks or several of those blocks. We have to say, of course, to the first child, well, how can we ask for those blocks? We can say, can I please have a few blocks? And then you turn to the other child and say, this child needs some blocks.
Yeah.
Can you please hand me some blocks maybe
Yeah.
to give to this child and facilitate this?
Yeah.
When the adult went over and just sort of grabbed some blocks and put it in front of the other child, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
that's maybe not the best way.
The best way, but yeah.
Maybe not effective, by the way, but
yeah.
not the best way.
Yeah.
We, as I was saying, when we started the episode, we, in some of our generations and in some of our families, not everybody, but some of us, when we were anxious, frustrated, out of sorts,
Yeah.
it was rare for someone to say, what's up? What do you need?
Yeah.
It was more common, I think, for people to assume things like, okay, you're scared, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Or you're scared, this will pass, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Go try it, you'll find out you like it. It was never
Right.
like, what do you need? And I think about times when I was afraid when I was a child.
Yeah.
And sometimes it would have been nice if someone said, what do you need?
I really, in my childhood, remember ever really discussing feelings at all, no matter what those feelings were.
It
I
was,
don't remember that.
it was a generational thing. And we have
Yeah.
a couple episodes from now, we're going to talk a little bit more about
Yeah.
feelings, because social emotional development is it's like the foundation
Yeah.
for all of the learning. And I don't
Yeah.
think you can talk about social emotional development enough. So you want to make sure to be with us, folks. I believe it's February 10th.
Yes.
Please be with us. But there's a difference between that episode and this one, right? So
Yeah.
in this one, what we're saying is make it a practice to go to children who are out of sorts. Maybe a child isn't feeling well.
Yeah.
To go up and say, what do you need?
Yeah.
Right? What do you need? Are you okay? What do you need? To go to children who are arguing over toys and say, what's going on? What do you both need?
Right.
To go to a child who is frustrated or angry and say, I see you're frustrated and angry. It's okay to be frustrated and angry. What is it that you need? Teaches them to think about the problem. I think that's the bottom
I
line.
think that's the bottom line.
It teaches them to examine the problem.
Yeah.
We as adults want to just go in and solve every problem.
Yes.
But instead, we need to be teaching children to think, what is the problem? What would I like the result to be? Is it possible to get there?
Right.
And sometimes it's not possible.
Right.
But they have to learn that too. It's a life lesson.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Life lesson. So as you are interacting with children, folks, try it out.
Yes.
Go to them and say, what do you need? And they may first look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
They won't understand. And maybe you give them options like, what do you need? Do you need a hug? Do you need a tissue? Do you need my help?
Right.
What do you need? And those can be the options.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you need a hug? Do you need a tissue?
Yeah.
Do you need my help? Do you need something that's over here?
Else. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah.
And help them to sort of think that way. I do hope that they grow up to be people who recognize their own personal needs sooner than many of our generations did. To realize, you know what? This endlessly working without taking breaks is not good for me. Actually, it's the younger generations now who understand the benefit of things like taking time for themselves. And maybe that generation is better at thinking about what they need. But I do believe that we can do even better with these young children.
I agree.
Yeah. Okay, folks, go ponder that. Come back next time when we are not talking about social emotional development. Give you all a little break.
Yeah.
In the meantime, don't forget to check out our website, howpreschoolteachersdoit.com. There's a contact form. There are listener references in the community section. And our Facebook page, How Preschool Teachers Do It podcast. Catch you next time.